640 WROK.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Stern along with Matt Nestor and producer Tom Warner. I don't know about you folks, but I'm having a great time. This is one of those shows you probably could have done 3 hours on. I'm not sure, but I think we probably could have stretched it out that far. We have with us legendary coach Steve Goers. And before we get on to the Boylan part real quick, do you remember your first win as a high school basketball coach? I mean, those are the ones that you're glad to get it under your belt. I know you won 7 games that first year you said at Bardolph. Do you remember it at all?
Of course.
Of course. Hey, see, good. I knew you would.
It was at home, and it was versus basketball powerhouse Plymouth, Illinois.
Yeah, I've heard of them, Coach.
Coach was Dave Swicegood. You know, it's crazy that I can't remember yesterday, but I can remember that. I can remember 100 years ago. You know, Dave Swicegood, let me give credit to this man, was an epitome of small school coaches. Mm-hmm. He did like I did. I mean, he was coaching, he coached baseball. We didn't have football. Two schools were too small. Mm-hmm. But he coached baseball, and he coached track and basketball. But he'd go out and throw batting practice right-handed and left-handed.
Wow. That's talented.
Yeah. I get tired of throwing right-handed and throw left-handed. And he was a tremendous coach back in those days, and he was about 10 years older than me, and we won our first game in a close game, and it was really exciting. It was exciting.
Which one do you remember more, the first win or the first loss? I know those losses stick with coaches too.
I try, the losses I remember are the ones that woulda, coulda, shoulda, losses, and at Bardolph, most of the games schools when we got beat,
you couldn't.
We didn't have, when we won, it was an event,
right?
A loss, it was 7-14, but no, I can remember certain games for certain reasons. I can remember some unbelievable wins, and I can remember some unbelievable losses, but I don't think more than one or the other.
Right.
Well, when you look at your record, 881, and I also see those 200 some losses at Boylan. You come to Boylan from Bardolph. Did you ever in your wildest dream think you'd be at a school for 30 years, Coach, and build a program like you did there? Because it was an amazing run for you over there at Boylan.
No, because I had jumped quite a few schools. I mean, I went, Bardolph, Crete, Monet, Quincy, Oswego for a couple years, which were phenomenal years, because Oswego had never won a regional game. In the second year, we were able to get a program to get to Elite Eight, and then we went to LP, LaSalle, Peru, and then we went where I got fired. And we went.
It happens to all of us, Coach.
Well, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank goodness they fired me so I get out of there.
There you go. Sometimes that works for the best, doesn't it?
And then I went to Harvard for 2 years, and then at Boylan for 31. I don't know. I think the experience of going to Boylan for 31 years was amazing, because since I was at so many different schools. I mean, I had visions. I was a relatively young guy when I got to Boylan. I was in my mid-30s. I think that's still.
That's still. Yeah. That's where I'm at. So hopefully that's still young.
Yeah. So I mean, I had visions of coaching in Illinois. Going on to college. In fact, I did have a couple opportunities I did turn down. I had a lot of opportunities I wasn't offered. I didn't get it. That I did apply for, but because I really. It's just like assistant coaches. The assistant coaches I wanted coaching with me, I wanted them to leave because I want them hungry. The players that played for us at Boylan, I wanted them to play at college because I wanted them hungry to go to work extra because they knew that college was going to be tougher. So I wanted to have players and assistant coaches that are ambitious like their head coach was. So I felt that I was always trying to stretch myself. Now, the difference is here in being a head high school coach that is totally dedicated to his program than a head high school coach that is just trying to move on is the fact that I spent so much time with my Boylan program that I had college coaches tell me that I didn't spend enough time playing the game of going to all the college camps or the national camps where I could have gone and worked at those camps. But I said no, because I wanted to stay with the Titans for our summer program, so I wouldn't lose all our players to eventually the AAU.
Right, that's true. Yeah,
so I was caught a little bit between a rock and a hard place, between maybe a personal ambition to really strive for a college job, or staying loyal to my program, that we've worked on. So, that's just one of those things you deal with. But if you're going to do anything, you want to do it right.
Right.
And I was going to try to do the best job I could at Boylan.
Was there a point or a year or a team where you kind of realized, instead of, Boylan being, just a job to the next job, that where you kind of realized, that maybe Boylan was the job?
I always thought that Boylan was special. All right, because the school itself was centered on the child. And when we had a situation where I had the ragtag group, my first team that was 7-17, I believe, at Boylan, and I had all those juniors, Schwartzbach and Panther and Reslak and Mike Pfluger and Andy Fandel. And the first team I was there, we were in the locker room, and we didn't have anybody come into the games. Okay, there was nobody coming for a few years, and so we had a win. We started the year terrible, and we got a few wins in it after a game, and we're happy about a win, a little bit like we're happy about a win back in Bardolph. Here we're in Boylan. I told the kids, I said, "You're really happy, aren't you?" He said, "I want you to look around the locker room here." And he said, "Next year, when we're really good, I want you to remember who was in the stands tonight when we were building this thing, because we could shoot a shotgun out there and we wouldn't hit anybody." Okay. And then next year, when this place is jumping, remember who your friends are. Remember who was loyal to you when we were building this thing. Next year we got Sweet 16.
Yeah,
nice.
The second year there with those guys, and we laughed about that. We were we beat Guilford at Guilford in a sectional championship, and went on and got beat by Benedict Academy. And when Fandel turned his ankle in warm-ups against Guilford, he played Guilford, but it was like a balloon.
Sure.
For super. But the kids remembered that. And before the game started, there's a young man that was a freshman. I think he was a freshman. It was Sonny Roberts. And Sonny's sitting there in the stands, and I said, and I turned to Sonny as kids were warming up. He was right there in that first row, and I said, "There's something in it, Sonny?" Because we're in Chick Evans, there's 6,000 people. It was packed, and he said, "Yeah, this is something, Coach." And I says, "This is going to be you." I said, "You got to work hard." And next year, Sonny next 2 years later, Sonny was a big part of our team for 2 years going to state, and he went to Illinois State, and and Danny Jones was the sophomore, and just kept on building, because we were down at the Metro Center at Christmas time, and Mendel Catholic was winning the Christmas tournament, and Danny Jones was a freshman, and I'm sitting next to Danny watching Mendel Catholic win the Rockford Christmas Classic in the Metro Center. And there was some big kid playing for Mendel Catholic who was a good player. And Danny said, "Boy, that's pretty good." I said, "Danny, nobody's going to remember that guy's name. They're always going to remember your name if you work hard." And I was right. I can't remember that kid's name.
Right.
Danny Jones is a legend. All right. And Danny went on and built it. There was just, generation after generation of kids that looked up to certain players, and then eventually there were players on our teams. And we built from that. So it was a special place. It is a special place, and I'm very proud of my relationship with the players and the faculty and the staff at Boylan.
There's you're talking about these players. I was going to ask you about your most memorable player, but I think they're all memorable to you, aren't you? I mean, you have so many coaches that kids that you enjoyed having.
It happens probably more than I like that I get the question, who is my best player? And I can't answer that. I really can't, because it's almost a player of the moment. Sometimes, I had somebody, I'm not going to say the player or the person's name, say, this guy had to be the top 5. And I says, he's not in the top 10. Wait, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I said, well, you don't know our program.
Right.
You don't know the players. And I mean, it was just such an exceptional group of different young men that went through there in 31 years I was there, that it's very difficult for me. I mean, Joe Tully getting 54 or 56 points, whatever he got in one game, and I pulled him out. You know, and Lee Lampley hitting 50 a couple times. Demir Kropali with two 20-20 games. One against Westinghouse in the Metro Center, on a big court. And we had a little bit of an incentive program that if you got a triple-double or a 20-20, that you get a steak dinner. I'd take you out for steak dinner.
Yeah.
Michael Slider had one 20-20, and Demir had two 20-20s. So the first 20-20 comes out for Demir, and I take out for steak dinner, and it was great. Then we went Maria's, God bless Maria's.
Right. Yeah. Rest in peace, right?
And the second one comes along. Is Coach, I don't want the steak dinner. What do you mean? You earned 20. I know, but it's a team game. I want to have pizza party for team.
Nice. That made you feel good, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that was great. Yeah. And so we took the kids out for a pizza party, on Demir, because Demir has 20-20, and it's one of those things where how can you say one guy?
Right.
I always mention Danny and the Joe Tullys, and I always said, we had a lot of bigger guys that were successful on D1, Chad Gallagher, and he even got a touch in the league a little bit. But what about the point guards?
Right.
The point guards that gave them the ball.
Right.
The Johnny Hernandez, Johnny Hernandez is a dentist today. Tim Pelkey, Dr. Pelkey.
Right.
Brian Reinhardt. Oh, I think he might be a judge by now. He's an attorney. Tim Goers. Oh, he's a coach.
Right.
And he had to live with you too, didn't
he? And you could go on and on with just the Ricky Boone, the great point guards we have. Stevie Harris and Chris Miller and those guys. We had such a run of great point guards. They gave the big guys the ball.
Right.
They put them in a position that were unselfish and played for the team, because that's what your point guard has to do. Because your point guard is your coach on the floor. He's your extension. Unless you're in harmony with him, then you got some problems.
Right.
So you got to give credit to all those guys too.
So I got a twist on that question then. So instead of, best players, there may be one or two guys you can think of that maybe you saw them as freshmen and sophomores and thought, boy, I don't think they've got a place on our team, that just really exceeded your expectations and turned out to be great players for you.
Yes, there's a couple of those guys. There's a guy that got beat up by Demir in practice that was on a. I don't think he ever started a game at Boylan. Maybe a couple in his sophomore team when he was a sophomore, but never started as a junior, and then started and was actually all conference as a senior and walked on at Notre Dame, and it was Tony Carney. He was beat up by by Demir rather in practice, and then came on, and there was Andy Fandel. I don't know if it was Andy. No. Chris LaShock, excuse me. Chris LaShock, as a freshman, was cut. And Kyle Watson was one of the assistants, the freshman team, and they cut Chris and another guy. And the next day they had a practice, and they were running the kids, and two of the kids they were running, they're big old kids that they quit. They couldn't handle running. And called me up and he says, Coach, these two guys quit. I said, what should we do? We're not going to. Well, I said, I like that Chris Lashai kid. Why don't you call him up and see if he can come back on the team? Came back on the team. So he didn't play as a freshman, didn't play as a sophomore, didn't play as a junior, didn't start. We started one guy for the first 4 or 5 games his senior year. He didn't work out. We threw Lashak in there, and we ended up getting to the Sweet 16 that year and lost over at Moline against Rocky or something. And Chris never gave up. You know, a kid that never gave up, never wanted anything except be part of it. And just had great dedication to the program. So he's certainly one of those stories.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be back to wrap up our Steve Goers show. Yeah, we'll call it that. Don't you think so?
We'll have to do another one of these.
Oh, yeah, this is great.
Got like 50 more questions to ask.
This is good. So we're going to wrap it up.
We know if the pay is the same, what the heck?
That's right. Yeah, you're almost making as much as I am, Coach. It makes you feel any better. We're going to take a time out. We'll be back with more on the Steve Goers Show here on News Talk 1440 WROK.
You already have your clock radio set